So we know that a function takes some input, okay, and it goes through our machine, for example, and maps it over to an output. For example, if we let our function of x be equal to 2x plus 1. Let's take a few inputs. Let's take -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And let's see where these map to. So -2, that would map across to -3 in the output. -1 would map across to -1. 0 would map across to 1. 1 would map across to 3, and 2 mapping across to 5. Okay, now what we can see is that for every single input, it only goes over to one output, okay, and there's no double ups. For example, where the -2 goes over to our -3, no other number that we put into this machine will also go to -3. So each of these lines go directly across. There's no double ups, there's no crossovers. Okay, so we call this a one-to-one function. Now we call it one-to-one because for each one in our domain, okay, maps to one and only one in our range. So the -2 going to a -3. There's no other number in our input, in our domain here, that can also go to -3. Okay, so this is what we call a one-to-one function. If we have a look at a slightly different example now, so if we take our function of x to be equal to x squared. Now let's take our same list of inputs and see where they map across to our outputs. So for example, if we take our -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 again. Now our -2, when I square that, I map across to +4. And -1 maps to 1, and 0 maps to 0. And 1 also maps to 1, and 2 also maps to 4. So we can see here that for many input values, i.e. 1, 2 input values, we're mapping across to just the one output value. And the same happens here with the ones. -1 and 1, many input values mapping to the same output value. So we see here that this is what we call a many-to-one function. So a many-to-one function, we have many values in our domain or our input section mapping to the same values in our range or our output section. So we call that many-to-one. So hopefully that helps sort of clear up the difference between a one-to-one function and a many-to-one function. Finally, let's take a look at our inputs and our outputs again. So we take some inputs, they go through a machine, and they go over to our output. Now let's take our same input values, but this time let's set our output values. For example, they could be 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, I'm not going to give an equation for this, but we're going to look at some hypothetical mapping and look to see that it's not one-to-one and it's not many-to-one. So for example, the -2 goes to 5, the -1 goes to 6, but it also goes to 5, okay, and our 0 goes to 7, and our 1 goes to 8, but it also goes to 9, and our 2 goes to our 9 as well. So what we can see happening here is that we have one value in our input mapping to multiple values in our output. So here we have a one-to-many. And if we have a one-to-many situation, this is called a relationship. This is not a function, okay? And an example of this is in circles. Okay, we have a one-to-many relationship. Now, in future videos, we're going to look at what this looks like on a graph. Okay, when we come to graphing functions, and we'll come up with a few different tests that allow us to judge whether it's a one-to-one, many-to-one, or a one-to-many relationship, and we'll be able to judge that off of a graph.